Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
An explosion in the WNBA is imminent. However, what if a well-thought-out transfer that has the potential to permanently alter the league is the source of the true seismic shift rather than a single player? Forget your preconceived notions about super teams, as a new roster plan for 2026 has surfaced. It centers around Caitlin Clark and an unexpectedly brilliant co-star. This lineup is more than simply a fantasy one. Someone like Stephen A. Smith would shout this vision from the rooftops. A team so strong that it would shock the other teams in the league. We're discussing a roster structure that would envy general managers in the NBA. A chemistry experiment that maximizes each and every possession by pairing the league's best offensive player with complementary pieces. The Golden State Warriors became a dynasty because to this team-building concept, which also made the Miami Heat's Big Three period television must-watch. However, the ramifications are astounding, and this time it's taking place in the WNBA. There is just one indisputable fact that forms the basis of this empire. The proper circumstances must be in place for Caitlin Clark, a generational talent, to reach her maximum championship potential. More than simply Caitlin Clark's incredible range lies at the core of this basketball powerhouse. It's her alliance with Sophie Cunningham, one of the league's fiercest rivals. Cunningham is the tough enforcer, a guy who provides the unwavering intensity and defensive fire that every winning team requires, while Clark is the attacking artist. Imagine Cunningham locking down the top player on the other squad as Clark drains logos. It's the ideal balance of fight and flair. A team that covers the floor from all sides and gives opponents nightmares. Points aren't the only goal here. The goal is to establish an impregnable foundation. But let's examine in more detail why this combination works so well. Caitlin Clark is an excellent player in space, creating her hallmark long three-point shots using ball screens and off-ball movement. In order to save energy on that end of the court and launch an attacking attack, she needs players who can defend at a high level. Sophie Cunningham proves crucial at that point. Cunningham does more than simply defend. She sets the tone. The type of player that enjoys ruining her opponent's evening. She fights over the top, struggles past screens, and disrupts offensive rhythm with her body language. In addition to defense, Cunningham contributes toughness and seasoned leadership. She has participated in intense playoff matches. She has encountered elimination situations, and she has never given up on a task. You want players like Cunningham on your team when the stakes are greatest and the lights are brightest. Players who don't back down from the occasion but instead embrace it. She would be the ideal seasoned mentor to assist Clark navigate the demanding process of managing a stellar team. The synergy between a defensive bulldog like Cunningham and a courageous shooter like Clark would foster an excellence-driven culture that penetrates the whole squad. However, that was only the start of this crazy roster. The relation to Stephen A. Smith. Right now, you can practically hear Stephen A. Smith fervently stating that the WNBA needs this type of action. This lineup is a vibrant interpretation. A daring forecast that will dominate news reports and titles for many years to come. He loves to support this type of strong move. Unquestionably clever, provocative, and disruptive. He would describe it as an evolution that the league needs. A strategy for producing the type of must-watch television that propels the WNBA to new heights. And you'll discover why after you see the other pieces of this puzzle. With his trademark fervor, Stephen A. would dissect this squad, pointing to the camera and stating that it is just what the WNBA needs to contend for public recognition. He would contend that casual sports fans watch to experience greatness, to watch teams that dominate and make bold statements. Consider the jump in viewership that occurred during the height of the Warriors' success or when LeBron created the Miami Heat Super Club. Viewership is driven by controversy, and income is driven by viewership. Appointment television would be this WNBA super team. Basketball that appeals to a wider audience is a must-see. He would most likely launch into one of his renowned tirades about how the league has been anticipating this day. How the entrance of Caitlin Clark presented the ideal chance to create something unique, something that may come to characterize a whole age. Stephen A. would stress that the goal here is not to undermine the equilibrium of competition. The goal is to increase awareness of the league as a whole. Everyone wins when one team turns into an appointment viewing team. When this great squad visits the city, rival teams draw larger fans. Highlight reels go viral. The league's cultural influence grows significantly. The best aspect would be that other teams would have to react, forming their own super squads and raising the bar for competitiveness. This is the way to create a meaningful league. A league that is well known and respected across the country. Other important players would join Clark and Cunningham in this hypothetical 2026 roster, making this squad all but unbeatable. Imagine Clark having countless open shots thanks to a dominant post player who controls the paint and another outstanding shooter who spreads the floor even more. Key free agents and emerging players who are prepared to put a ring above all else would be the front office's aim. It would be more than just a team. It would consist of a group of basketball killers, each with a distinct function within a system intended to cause complete destruction. Let's discuss the specifics of creating a roster. You would want a center that can create deadly screens, defend the rim, and rebound at a high level. Someone with the strength to fight at the post, yet the mobility to pivot to defense, like Brianna Jones. It would not be necessary for this player to be the main scorer. Doing the grunt work, building an internal presence, and generating second chances are what make them valuable. This center would thrive on offensive rebounds and putbacks when Clark draws double teams to the perimeter. A dynamic defender who can guard several spots and make corner threes would be your objective at power forward. Consider a player like A.J. Wilson or Brianna Stewart who can provide switchability on defense and spread the floor on offense. With the ability to bang with posts in the paint or defend wings on the perimeter, this guy would be essential in today's positionless game. Being able to shoot from a distance would be crucial because it keeps defenders accountable and stops them from sagging off to assist Clark. An additional guard or wing who can handle the ball, generate their own shot, and relieve pressure on Clark as a secondary playmaker would be the last component. Someone who can help in transition, attack closeouts, and add another scoring threat to keep defenses from concentrating just on stopping Clark. This player would require a strong basketball IQ in order to know when to feed Clark for huge shots and when to be aggressive. These 5 players would have a chemistry based on sacrifice, with each one ready to put the success of the team ahead of their own individual performance. However, a club with this much talent would undoubtedly face significant criticism. The murmurs would begin right away. How was it possible for one team to bring together so much talent? What sort of backroom transactions took place? Who took advantage of the reductions, and why? Not everyone would be cheering, and the story would write itself. The reaction. There would be an instant and severe response as soon as this lineup was made public. Rival team supporters would scream and accuse the league of permitting a talent monopoly that would undermine the equilibrium of competition. There would be a contentious debate in the media. Does this type of super squad represent the sports ethos, or is it beneficial for business? With this squad acting as the antagonist in every venue they visit, every game would be a championship-level pressure cooker. From the very first tip, they would have a bullseye on their backs. There would be an incredible explosion of hot opinions and passionate reactions on social media. Fans would fill Twitter with side-by-side parallels to Kevin Durant joining the Warriors, accusing this action of being unjust or weak. Every facet of the roster composition would be examined in Reddit posts, with supporters formulating complex conspiracy theories regarding recruiting and manipulation. Sports talk radio would spend whole segments discussing whether this elite squad is beneficial to the WNBA or exemplifies all the issues with contemporary professional sports. Traditional basketball purists would reflect on past mistakes and mourn the demise of natural team bonding. They would use teams like the Spurs or the pre-KD Warriors as models of how to construct a champion when players stayed with one team throughout their careers and established dynasties through the draft. These detractors contend that elite teams produce dull, predictable work with a predetermined result before the season even starts. If opposing team supporters already know they will lose, why would they attend games? This is where things start to get interesting though. The reaction itself would be included in the narrative, drawing even more interest and viewers. People would watch in the hopes that the elite squad would falter and cheer for underdogs to pull off incredible upsets. Each loss would be examined and magnified. Every dispute became bigger. These elite athletes would be under tremendous strain. It would be a terrible failure if it weren't a championship. They would be doing more than simply hoops. Every choice they made would be scrutinized, and every error would be captured on highlight reels, as they played under intense scrutiny. And everyone would be shocked by what transpired next. The human factor, pressure, and egos. Success is not usually the result of these elements. Super teams who collapsed catastrophically because they couldn't bear the pressure of expectations are common throughout history. It costs a lot of money to put together this much talent. One that would raise the pay cap for the WNBA to its maximum amount. Some of these celebrities would need to make a decision in order for it to function. For a surefire chance at a dynasty, take a lower salary or take the max deal elsewhere. The plot would take on a completely new dimension as a result of this financial turmoil, which would highlight the egos and sacrifices required to assemble a contemporary super squad. It's a risky move that may result in a historic championship run or collapse under the weight of its own aspirations. Let's examine the figures. Building a super squad is made much more difficult by the WNBA's far stricter wage cap structure than the NBA's. The complex jigsaw of roster construction includes veteran minimum pay, supermax agreements, and maximum contracts. At least one or two of the best players on this super squad would have to accept far less than their market value in order for it to succeed. This produces intriguing dynamics as well as possible sources of contention. Consider Caitlin Clark as the franchise's star, demanding the highest deal possible, which she well deserves considering her marketability and on-court output. Even though Sophie Cunningham is essential to the team's defensive identity, she would now have to settle for a lesser contract than she could get on the free market. Similar choices would need to be made by the flexible forward and the post player.